Welcome back to our backyard garden. My name is Leigh and this is Farmer John. We are just out here adding some new galvanized beds to a rough garden patio that we're creating. It's not a formal structure. We've been making everything out of reclaimed material, but we wanted to add some interesting flower beds to complement the beds that we have already assembled that have a tomato trellis in them. So we purchased two corner-shaped galvanized beds in order to fill with soil so we can add flowers and some spring bulbs into them. Our patio was going to be a square, but it ended up being a circle with some different shapes, so it all got a little bit complicated. So we really had to work with these galvanized beds. But right now I'm going to give you a quick review and tell you some experience that we had while assembling them, so you know what to expect if you're interested in purchasing a galvanized bed like this that would fit into a corner. Now this product we purchased from Amazon. It came up as CastleCreek because I was interested in doing an actual corner bed. And so you can see how the shape is and what you can expect. Now we already had the elongated galvanized beds, and I will tell you, as a structure, the elongated beds are much more stable and easy to work with, and their edges close completely. So we really like them. But because we were trying to complement a shape with this, you know, we didn't really know what we were going to expect with something like this. But something I discovered once we assembled it was that you can see there's going to be areas where it is, you can see my fingers behind here, but we're going to actually fill this with fabric to make sure we don't have any soil loss on the sides. Now, it does assemble a little bit flimsy because of its shape. So if you're going to go ahead and assemble something like this, you're going to have to like twist it and straighten it out and look at your side edges and make sure that it's straight as you want it, because it will go askew. So it's a little wonky getting it actually into its perfect L shape. Another thing that you'll be dealing with is that it needs to be on a completely level surface, even more so than the elongated beds. They were much easier to toy with. This here is requiring a total level space. Now, because we're building our patio on a swale, we have had to do, it's still in the process of building and leveling and everything. In order to make this bed here level to this bed over here, we had to do some packing underneath of it. Now we could have built it up with cinder dust and trap rock, or however you want to level an area if you're going to be putting it on soil. You know, that would have been an ideal situation, but we just ended up packing it up on some excess stone brick-like pieces that we had, and it seems to be working out. So you can see that the whole inside is packed out with stone pieces in order to create level. So it's not perfectly level, but it's totally acceptable. So we're going to show you what the measurements look like, because John, would you please go get the measuring tape? Sure. When I went ahead and bought this, I didn't really know what to expect, again, with the dimensions. So, you know, it was really just hard to gauge how big it was going to be. So, yeah, let's put this on an end here. No, that way. It's okay. And show people what, from its one corner to its furthest point over, is going to be 46 inches. So you can count that from that corner back to the same area is going to be 46 inches. And then about 46. And then how wide is it? Let's show. So it's about 16 and a half wide for planting space. And then I think it's like, how deep is it? Like 17 inches? Yeah, so it's like 16 inches deep of planting space, which is going to be great because we're going to be filling this up. It does eat up a lot of soil. So we planned on 4 bags of soil plus some peat moss and some, you know, old, natural soil that we already have here. So we can make sure it has good drainage. So we are also planting spring bulbs in here, so we want to make sure they have a nice dry peat moss, good drainage opportunity to sit in, and hopefully they'll come back like perennials. And you can see that these two nice beds are going to flank this shape very nicely. This actually looks pretty cool on camera. So it'll be interesting. Now, I also bought a few obelisks that I will be showing you at a later time, unless I can, you know what, I'll go ahead and assemble them before the end of this video and show you what I'm going to do with the obelisks. So again, these galvanized beds are the L shape from CastleCreek, if you are interested. So let's stay tuned to see what else we're going to do here with it and how it turns out. So we shot the first part of this video on October 28th, 2023, and today is December 29th, 2023. So I thought it was an opportunity for me to say, okay, I can fairly give you my opinion on these galvanized beds in comparison to the other beds we already had in place after a little bit of time has passed. So before we broke into this segment here, there were some things that we encountered during the construction and installation of these beds, and I thought it would be beneficial for you to hear what we ran into, so it will give you some ideas before you start off in this adventure with installing something like this and making sure you have enough tools handy. Well, these beds sure do look nice if this is the kind of look you're interested in. Now, they are finally together. As I had stated in the video, we did have to pack the corners with landscape fabric because there are some substantial gaps where the panels meet up with each other because of the type of corner that you have. So you'll want to be prepared to block that off with some landscape fabric or screen, and of course enough material to fill it. Like I said, this took several bags of soil, several bags of mulch, and we wanted to do an area where we were going to be able to take advantage of the full 17 inches because we were planting spring bulbs in here. So after we made the video, we went ahead and filled it with alliums and hyacinths and all sorts of stuff. And then in the middle, we planted sweet peas that you can see are coming up, and they will grow up this trellis, which I'm about to get into more about this. Sorry about the airplanes and the screaming parrots, Dusty. I know that you must be laughing at me. You guys, if you're new here, no video is complete unless we have airplanes and screaming parrots in the background. They're screaming because there's a crow in the background shouting, and a whole flock of Canada geese just flew over. So the goon squad over here is having a fit. So now that they calm down, hopefully we'll have a moment of silence. Let's go back to galvanized beds. So as I compared the corners of this bed in needing the landscape fabric and the gaps that we showed earlier in the video, when we compare them to these beds, I'll go ahead and attach a link in the description as to what these were and the day we installed them and assembled them. These did dull down nicely, so they have a patina on them, and you can see where they join together in all these sections, they join nice and flat, so you don't need landscape fabric for something like this. And this shape bed was far more forgiving on working with building them on any type of grading issues. So I still really, really like these beds a lot. Now the shape of these beds is basically what really sold me on the idea, and I didn't think that the material was going to vary as much as it did. Now this is a completely different vendor than the other ones I just showed you. The galvanized on this is much more flexible. It seems to be of a different type of grade. It's just very thin and flimsy. And the biggest challenge we worked with was keeping it square. So we wanted to, keep straight lines so that they matched up to each other on the outside. And they're just so flimsy that you really can't hold the square of the outsides as you're working with them, because it's like this side would bend out, this side would move, we would straighten this out, then the inside would be off, and getting these corners to just kind of line up to each other is something you want to take into consideration. So the most important thing for that is making sure that you're working on a completely level grade and making sure that you have good drainage under them. Something I would recommend is, as you're getting them lined up and you're finding your square corners, is to either drive a piece of rebar, a box, a bucket of rocks, something that would just, another person, if you have a bunch of kids, that can help you to keep everything stabilized, because as you're trying to fill it with soil, the thing just moves around. So if you drive in some kind of ties, rebar, like I said, landscape nails, anything, just to, straighten out your corners once you find your spacing and your spot, and that's where you want to retain it until you fill it up with soil and it won't move anymore, drive something into the insides. Now, these are also prone to buckling at the sides after they get filled with soil. So luckily ours are not doing that yet, but I did read reviews where people said they buckled out of control. Maybe because we used a good amount of peat moss in here, we're not having that problem yet. But we have had some freezing and we've had quite a bit of rain. So, that's a good sign for that. So right now, I kind of ultimately like the way they ended up looking, but I don't think they compare in quality to being as good as these guys over here. So now let's talk about these obelisks that I had mentioned. These are purchased from Amazon, and they are powder plastic coated metal. They go together very, very easily. I'm going to show you the box they came in. This particular obelisk is from a manufacturer called Therwen. It's a 4-piece obelisk set. They are 6 feet tall a piece, and they do require assembly. So these corners just snap in here at these sides of the circles, and you just basically plug everything in, and then you have your suction here, and it keeps it all stable. These little clips areas where they go together are a good indicator whether or not your obelisk is in level, because there's like little pins that go down in here, and if you're not level, the one side will raise up and you'll see how it just won't stay connected. So a quick tip before I forget to mention it: as you're putting these in, you're going to want to drive them down, and remember, once they get driven down to their final spot, they're not going to be 6 feet tall anymore. Now, because we have these in a raised bed, they're probably close to 6 feet tall. But if you're going into ground level and driving them down, you're going to want to consider that you're going to lose the height of your feet. Now, if you have something that's small and similar in diameter to this that you'll want to use, like a piece of rebar, after you assemble this whole thing, find your spot, start to push it down so you can see where your marks are going to be. And then take something that is of similar diameter and drive it down to the depth that you want, so that the feet go all the way down into the soil and it's not wobbly. Otherwise, it will blow over in the wind. And you may think that, oh, it's not a solid structure. It won't blow over in the wind. I assure you it will, because one of ours did on the other side. So it's because it didn't like the soil that it was going into. It was clay. So we drove down a piece of rebar nice and deep. Now, if you get something like this, again, where your soil won't accept it, you can always get a piece of PVC tubing, and you cut the bottom off at like a 45-degree angle, and it creates a spear, and you drive that down into the bottom, and then you would feed the legs into that, at least 2 corners, so that it will hold itself solid. So I hope you know what I mean by that. If anybody has any questions about that, please make some comments below. But the obelisk overall, they've only been in for 2 months, and like I said, they are plastic coated metal. Now, some of the different vendors online have different finial options that you can choose from, and there's so many different options out there to choose from. These guys were 4 pieces for around $40. The Amazon prices always change, but we'll go ahead and we'll post that link for you. But my hope for these guys is that the sweet pea vines that are planted down in there are going to grow up them nicely and have a nice structure to hold on to. Do I think would I recommend them? Getting 4 pieces for $40? That's not a bad deal. Some of these that come in wrought iron or other materials can be $60 for something that's smaller than this, and they can go well up into the hundreds of dollars depending on the size and how ornate they actually are. So this is the box that the obelisk came in. And I was really surprised when we opened it to see that, you know, they give you some supplies with it. Here's a bag of lock ties and some twisty tie that can be, you know, cut off according to size on a little reel, which I thought was cool. See, there's a little blade on top of it, so I like that. And they give you these cute little stakes that are just these little, see, there you go. Little butterflies. Look, there's a little swallowtail and there's a monarch in different colors. There's a bunch of them on here that you can just like put down into your flower pots or your landscaping beds just to add some whimsy. So again, that was part of the package. They give you a pair of gloves and a bag of these types of clips. So if you know, whatever you're growing, a vine or a tall, like a zinnia or a sunflower or whatever, you know, you want to clip this to the side of the obelisk for support. So, you know, I thought that was pretty cool. And of course you have complete instructions on how to set it up. And they're not hard. You can see it's steps. They go together, they squeeze together. I don't even think that Farmer John needed any tools. They just all snap together. So you guys, as you stay with us through all of these projects, we want you to know that our backyard garden is in no way complete. This is a construction project that has taken us years to get this far, and we're hoping to now get to a point where it's going to start wrapping up now that the actual, like the foundation of all of it is getting finalized, and we're able to get into completing structures and the stability that we need to, you know, now create flower beds and shrubs and things of that sort, because our goal is to have an English style garden, which is why we created the bowling green of grass. We have a lot of pea gravel and a lot of stone, and we've seen that through the years as we follow people on YouTube and we see all of the English gardens that we find to be just like so totally beautiful. They also use a lot of pea gravel and stone and things like that. So while this will never be a formal English garden, we do want to get it to a place where we have low maintenance and we have plenty of perennial flowers and options as to where we want to plant things. So, you know, perhaps if these beds here that we just built on these corners don't work out for spring bulbs or for climbing sweet peas, then we can always grow another variety of tomato, because evidently I can't get enough tomatoes and cucumbers. But yeah, so I think, you know, for the price of these things, you know, if these are the options that you're looking for, is to try to grow in the galvanized, the prices aren't bad for the material. And the most important thing, you know, that they really achieve is that they're retaining your soil for you. Because a lot of this stuff, you put your soil down and the rains come and then the wind comes, and before you know it, you've lost half of your soil. So you don't have to have raised beds to do any of this gardening. So if it's something that's not affordable to you, don't let that stop you from trying to grow something. You know, a pile of rocks make a good border, or nothing at all. If you have good flat level ground and you can just create little hills, anything to get you started. Again, we're doing this because we want to retain soil, and I wanted to bring the garden up higher for me because of my back and neck injury. So being able to sit down on this bench that we built and have these garden beds right behind me here so I can just sit and work on them is an absolute benefit. So please look for the links to these items below, as well as the link for the videos for the other galvanized beds that we installed. I guess it's been a year already that we put them in. Now that all the crazy parrots just stopped screaming, they totally popped my thought bubbles. Sorry about that, guys. Something that I just remembered that is very important that I wanted to tell you about all of this is these corner galvanized beds, as well as the oblong ones that we're attaching the video for, neither model included an interior stabilizer bar. So if you're buying something where you're looking for that, a lot of people are saying they don't get them anymore, and the vendors are saying that it's not required. But it really would be very helpful, especially with something when you're trying to build it. It either loses its shape and it's not really a corner anymore. It just becomes an offset structure. And then, like I said, when you go to fill it and the soil starts to cause some bulging, especially when you're dealing with freezing and thawing and a lot of rain or anything like that, that can cause expansion and contraction with your soil or whatever you're packing these beds with. So that's something to take into consideration, that they do not have interior stabilizer bars inside of them. Now, as you search for these products online, Amazon will feed you many options. And with there being so many options to look at, it's easy to get distracted from what you want to be looking for as you know, and what it is that you're going to expect as a consumer when you buy an item like this. You're going to want to know if there's internal stabilizer bars. You're going to want to try to figure out, you know, how thick the galvanized material is, and you know, what it's going to take to put it together if you're going to need tools and things of that sort. And I want you to really look at it and decide whether or not your space can accommodate it. Not just in size, but in maybe your grading or your soil, or even if you have soil. I've seen some people build these corners type of beds and put them on top of concrete. And I really don't know how well something like that would work from a drainage perspective. So again, whatever suits you, whatever gets you gardening is the most important thing, but it's something that I want you to think about. And most important, look at the reviews online, because they really are telling. You know, you may start reading reviews and then realize, I never thought that this would need an internal stabilizer bar. Everyone's saying it didn't include one. Let me move on to the next product. So that's an example of things that you want to look for. Or, some people, you can't make them happy and they're going to complain about everything. And then there's some people who just have no idea what it is that they need and they're just happy to have it. And it takes them a year to realize they could have ended up buying something that perform better for the same amount of money. So take all of that into consideration while you're looking to shop for these types of beds. So that is my review and my recommendations for these two products. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed to our channel yet, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. So that's it. Stay tuned for more projects, you guys. We hope you have a wonderful growing season, and we hope to see you in the next video.